there. This is episode 29 of the Canton Cover-Up, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Karen Reed. You might have heard of it. It's a little story that just blew up. I've been talking about it on my channel since January. I started my channel because of this case. So we are going to actually, for this episode, we're going to talk about Katie McLaughlin, who is an EMT for the Canton Fire Department. And she arrived on scene when John's life was taken that night. And I say taken because I do believe it was taken and not lost. But it was taken by someone in that house, not by Karen. Let's be clear. All right, so that's my humble opinion, and it's also based on fact. Anyways, so Caitlin why do I keep calling her Caitlin? It's Katie McLaughlin, and she is kind of an important witness for the state because she quotes Karen as saying, "I hit him." So that's how she's extremely important. But she's also important because she's one of many witnesses that their testimony has changed after a conversation with Michael Proctor. Or maybe not testimony, but statements. Their version of events may have changed after talking to the lead investigator of the case, Trooper Michael Proctor, who is also under investigation for the investigation of this investigation, if that made any sense. So he's under investigation for the way he mishandled this case. Of course, they haven't come up with any findings as of yet because it would look badly if he had if the Canton police had some kind of, he's with Massachusetts State Police. If MSP would have some kind of blemish on their record, it looks poorly on the Commonwealth while they're trying to prosecute Karen. So obviously they're not going to come up with some kind of finding right now that Michael Proctor was, because this is an internal investigation that the DA said that they started. So it means nothing coming from the DA's office. But anyways, so that's two main reasons why Katie McLaughlin is important, and I will let you find out the third reason why she's so important in this case, and you'll figure it out as we go along. So with that, please give this video a like, and let's begin. This is Katie McLaughlin, EMT, Canton Fire Department, testifying. This is her direct testimony. Prosecutor Adam Lally asking questions. Volume sucks for like Lally's questions, some of it, but it's I've got the captions on, and you should be, if you listen and get headphones, you should be able to hear them.
Forever, or is there like a continuing educational component in a recertification process?
So you recertify every 2 years. You have to take continuing education classes.
He just asked her, I think I skipped the first question or two. Something about her EMT classes. So here, let's go back. Sorry.
Yes, it's through the state and through a national registry.
And both those certifications through the state and the national registry, are those granted sort of forever, or is there like a continuing educational component in a recertification process?
So you recertify every 2 years. You have to take continuing education classes in that 2 year period, and that's just on a 2 year cycle you recertify.
And your certification is up to date at this point, is that correct?
Yes.
Ma'am, if I could turn your attention to the dates of January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022. Do you recall those dates?
Yes.
And were you working with the Canton Fire Department on those dates?
Yes.
Do you recall what kind of shift you were working from the 28th to the 29th?
It was just my regular 24-hour shift.
And 24-hour shift in Canton Fire is essentially 8 a.m. to 8 a.m., is that correct?
Correct.
And where were you sort of assigned within the town of Canton Fire Department on that day?
So I was on the engine for that shift. So I was the third person on the engine. There's an engine driver, there's an officer, and then there's a third person who's in the back.
And so your sort of role with respect to the engine, is there sort of like a name for that position?
Some people call it like the backstep. Yeah.
And which station house were you assigned to on that engine?
The Station 1, which is 99 Revere Street.
And in addition to yourself, who, if anyone else, was assigned to the other sort of two roles on the engine?
Frank Walsh was the engine driver that day, and Greg Woodbury was the lieutenant on the engine that day.
Now, turning your attention to that morning of the 29th, do you recall about what time you got up or what time you went outside that day?
I think we were up maybe a little before 6 because it was snowing, and we had to like shovel the front apron. So we were up maybe 5 a.m.
So when you were up,
The apron is like where they, right before where they house all the trucks and where they come out. So they gotta be sure that it's cleared. So if there's an emergency, it's gotta be their exit to the streets is it's cleared so they can go.
around that time, around 5 a.m. and outside, you were outside shoveling, is that correct?
Yep, intermittently.
Somebody else testified to that. I don't know these things all on my own. Not that smart.
Intermittently, yeah.
So during the times that you were outside shoveling, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the weather or conditions at that time?
It was snowing pretty heavily. It had been snowing. We were shoveling, and it was pretty cold and windy.
And if you know around that time that you initially sort of went out and were shoveling, about how much snow had accumulated at that point?
I don't know how much. I mean, enough for us to shovel that front apron, but I don't know how much.
Now, sometime shortly after 6 a.m., were you and other members of your department dispatched to a call?
Yes.
And where were you dispatched to, and what was that dispatch number?
So the call came in as a man down in the snow or a man unresponsive in the snow, and the call was 434 Fairview Road.
And about how long was it from the time that you sort of received that dispatch and go sort of on the engine to that residence on Fairview Road?
How long?
Yes.
We're on the truck and going probably within a few minutes at most.
And so in addition to yourself and Firefighter Walsh and Lieutenant Woodbury, what, if any, other sort of apparatus from your station was dispatched to this call?
The ambulance was dispatched as well, and I believe the command car 5, also was dispatched to the call.
Listen to Adam Lally when he asks questions. He often says, what if any, or sort of. Sometimes he says sort of multiple times in a sentence. I caught him one time. I think it's coming up.
And as far as car 5, if you recall, who was in car 5?
At the time, Captain Robery.
And with respect to the ambulance, if you know who, if anyone, was assigned to the ambulance and went with the ambulance that day?
Firefighter Kelly and Firefighter Flamati were on that ambulance, and I believe Tim Nuttall was also there. He came in early, and so he jumped on the ambulance as well.
And with respect to when you get to Fairview Road, do you recall what sort of order the vehicles were in as far as car 5 and the ambulance and firemen?
I think car 5 was maybe first, and then the ambulance was in front of us, and then we pulled up behind the ambulance.
And so when you sort of arrive on scene, pull up behind the ambulance, other than vehicles from your department, what, if any, other sort of vehicles did you observe or see on scene that day?
I noticed there were multiple police vehicles and at least one civilian vehicle.
Now, obviously, you're responding to a report of an unresponsive male, correct?
Yes.
And when you're sort of first arriving on scene, or just in reference to when you arrived on scene, when was the first time that you were able to see that unresponsive party?
So when I got out of the engine, I went right back to the ambulance to get the stretcher because I knew that from wherever they were, they seemed to be kind of off of the road. So I got the stretcher with Firefighter Walsh, I believe, and then we brought the stretcher as close as we could to the patient, and that was like parallel to the curb, and that would be the first time that I observed them working on a patient.
And so if I could just ask you, just with regard to sort of those duties as the backstep person, so what is sort of the duties and responsibilities of the backstep person on the engine to this kind of medical?
So the role of the person in the back of the engine is, it kind of is dependent upon what that lead paramedic needs you to do. You're there to assist the ambulance in any way that they need. So that could be assisting with extrication of a patient. It could be obtaining information about a patient or bystanders. It could be assisting with patient care if they need you in the back of the ambulance. It really depends on what they need you to do for that particular call.
And turning back to your testimony just a moment ago, you said they were over rendering sort of patient care. Is that correct?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I noted Tim, I noted Tony, and there were a lot of people that seemed to be around that area. So I'm not sure exactly who else was there, but I did note Tony and Tim were in that area.
So as far as sort of the other people in that area where Tony and Tim were, so people sort of beyond people from your department, what if any other sort of people did you notice around that area?
What if any?
I don't know specifically. What do you mean, like
As far as
outside of the?
Right. So outside of fire department personnel in that area, what if any observations did you make of those people? Who were those people?
Well, at that.
He says, what if any, a lot too. So a lot of this is boring foundational stuff, but it's basically just to like set the tone. And then it gets really a lot more entertaining, or less boring when Alan Jackson starts to question her. So just hang in there, it's coming. This isn't much longer. Sorry you have to endure this to get to the good stuff.
Didn't really make out like the identities of like other people. I noted Tim and Tony, but I didn't really pick up on who anyone else was at that point. They were still like in off of the road at that point.
And so from where they're positioned with regard to the patient, just for clarity purposes, you were subsequently learned the identity of the patient, correct?
Yes.
And who did you learn him?
John O'Keefe.
And where you and firefighter Walsh were with the stretcher, how far away from where you were was Mr. O'Keefe and the other firefighter?
They were.
Everyone keeps calling him Mr. and not officer, and it's kind of annoying. He was an officer. Officer O'Keefe. I keep seeing stuff because I'm subscribed now to like a bunch of Massachusetts YouTube pages, and there's a fallen officer in like a surrounding suburb, Billerica or something like that. And this officer has like just streets of cars like in a procession for him, and cops are everywhere, and that's what John should have had they treated this like a normal crime scene and a normal death. They didn't even do that, like they're not even treating him like he's an officer of the law that they should be fighting to find out the truth for. Usually that's what you do for a fallen officer. So it's so bizarre.
I don't know that I could give a number. Several feet away, they were like, I remember kind of seeing a fire hydrant, but I don't know exactly number-wise what that would be.
And from your observation of where Mr. O'Keefe was, could you tell how his body was positioned?
He was supine, so he was lying on his back or face up.
And what, if anything, by the time that you arrived with firefighter Walsh on the stretcher, what, if anything, could you see that firefighters Malati and or Nuttall or anyone else was doing with reference to Mr. O'Keefe?
By that point, it seemed like they had already got him pretty much secured on a backboard, and they were ready to move him to the stretcher.
And once Mr. O'Keefe is then moved to the backboard from where he was to the stretcher where you are, what happened?
So I remember Tony was kind of at the head of the stretcher. I was standing on the side. There was a woman next to me. and Tony said to me, "Can you try to figure out what happened?" And he kind of motioned to this woman that was next to me.
And this, so firefighter Famani, who's the lead paramedic, directs you to ask questions of this female, correct?
Yes.
And fair to say this woman that was next to you, you didn't know her, you never met her before.
No.
From your conversations with her that day, do you see that woman in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you just direct us to where she's seated or an article of clothing she's wearing? That's a record of reflect identification.
Okay.
Now, with respect to this woman, she's standing next to you when you're at the side of the stretcher, correct?
Yes.
And what, if any, observations did you sort of initially make as far as her demeanor, or how was she sort of acting when you first started to engage?
She seemed very upset. Very upset.
And when you say she seemed very upset, what about her did you observe that made you say that?
Just her facial expressions. She was just visibly distraught.
And so, as far as your questions, what type of questions are you asking, or what type of information are you looking for from this person?
So just basic demographic info, who the patient is, his name, his date of birth. And then as far as any more questioning, you're trying to gather information that would basically help explain how this person ended up in the scenario that they're in. So did he have any medical problems? Does he take any medications daily? Does he have any allergies to medications? I was asking those questions.
And as you're asking those questions, what, if anything, is the defendant doing while you're asking those questions?
She answered who the patient was, his birthday. I think she answered maybe some of those initial medical questions that I asked. But as I said, she's very distraught. She was kind of moving around the scene a little bit, so I was just kind of following her, and then we came to a stop at one point, and I continued to ask one more question.
What was that one more question?
Did you catch that? I continued to ask one more question. That, my friends, sounds like coaching to me. Well, I just had to ask her this one last question. Let's hear that again. I was gonna stop it and say something else, but this part came up and I wasn't expecting it. So I'm gonna rewind it just a couple seconds and we'll listen to that again.
I was just kind of following her, and then we came to a stop at one point, and I continued to ask one more question.
What was that one more question?
So at that point, I asked her if there had been any significant trauma that happened before this.
What, if anything, she said?
So she said, "I hit him." She repeated it. There was a woman standing across from her who I believe at that point said, "You're hysterical. You need to calm down. You're hysterical." She repeated.
So hysterical, frantic, all these names to describe how Karen Reed is acting, almost in the negative, I would say, to describe her negatively, frantic, panicking, whatever. They try to get that message across that she's maybe unstable, I think, is what they're trying to insinuate, perhaps, with all these comments. And it hasn't been just her saying that she's been running around screaming really loud and frantic and, in a panic and things like that. So I wouldn't doubt if the Commonwealth tries to paint her as like some insane, crazy woman, which I don't believe she is at all. Anyways, let's go.
I hit him, and there was a police officer who
There, I'll rewind and shut up.
asked her if there had been any significant trauma that happened before this.
What, if anything, she said?
So she said, "I hit him." She repeated it. There was a woman standing across from her who I believe at that point said, "You're hysterical. You need to calm down. You're hysterical." She repeated, "I hit him." And there was a police officer who was in that vicinity kind of with us who replied, "You what?" She repeated it one more time, and that officer then signaled to somebody, "Get Goody down here," which I'm assuming would be the sergeant.
Goody's a nickname because it's actually pronounced good, but Nick Goody, it was his nickname in high school. Somebody confirmed that in somebody's chat, or well, I don't know if it's confirmed, but it was in somebody's chat. Somebody said that. Um, and what else was I gonna say about her? I don't know. Here we go.
So when you have this conversation, if you recall, you mentioned that the other person who was across from you was just, was that somebody from your department or an officer or civilian? Who was that?
So I was standing, Karen Reed was to my right. There was another woman to the left of me, kind of across from her. And then there was a police officer kind of, not directly across from me, but within the same kind of area that was more closer to Karen, I would say.
Do you know who that officer was?
I don't.
Do you know who the female or civilian person that was across from you? Do you know what that person's name is?
No.
And with respect to when Ms. Reed said this repeatedly, I hit it, can you describe to the jury sort of the tonality of that? Like, how did she seem?
She was very, very upset. She seemed hysterical, I would even say. Just
Upset, hysterical. Everyone's gonna say she's crazy.
just very upset.
So once you received that information, did you follow up with any other questions to Ms. Reed at that point?
At that point, I did not.
So a woman tells you, I hit him after you just asked if he's had any serious trauma, and you don't ask any follow-up questions. I don't believe you. That is false. False. That didn't happen.
I have to drive the ambulance, so it's a time-sensitive situation, so I knew I had to drive the ambulance. It was said in the presence of the police officer, so I felt like that was the appropriate, that information was appropriately transferred, and I just felt, based on her demeanor, I don't think it would have been productive for me to continue to ask her questions at that point.
And so after asking and receiving that answer of I hit him, where did you go?
So I went to the ambulance.
And in reference to the ambulance, did you go to the back of the ambulance, the front of the ambulance? Where did you go?
So I went to the back of the ambulance where the patient care was happening.
And as far as the information that you had received from the defendant, did you relay that information to any of the other firefighters from your department in the back of the ambulance?
I did.
And you recall who was there in the back of the ambulance when you relayed that?
Tony was there, Tim, I think maybe...
She's being so informal with their names. When you say Officer Nuttall, Officer Flamati, or Captain, whatever their titles are, I don't know. I just made Flamati a captain. Good job, Flamati.
Firefighter Kelly, Firefighter Walsh maybe might have been in there at that point.
Now, as far as when you get to the back of the ambulance, what, if anything, did you do with reference to assist or help as far as patient care with regard to Ms. O'Keefe?
I didn't assist or partake in any patient care.
Now, prior to putting Mr. O'Keefe into the back of the ambulance and prior to your conversation with the defendant, what, if any, observations had you made during the brief time that you were on the side of the stretcher of Mr. O'Keefe and any injuries you observed?
I noted he had injuries to his face. I noticed some blood from his nose, from his mouth, and most notably he had some swelling to his eyes, mostly the right eye, and a laceration above the right eye.
So that part's always been, well, not always, but it's been pretty consistent throughout from most of the witnesses about the eye swelling, and it was worse on the right eye. A lot of people overlooked the laceration that he had, the huge laceration that he had on the back of his head that likely would have bled out. So where's all the blood? Is that in the basement that they refinished? Or in the pool that they filled in with Chloe? I think, and I don't like it, but I think that's what happened. Yeah, oh yeah, there's rumors that, okay, so after John was found dead and all this, but Karen was still, framed at this time, or, getting pinned, it was getting pinned on her, so to say. She was already accused. And had to post bail and all that. So I forgot what I was saying, where I was going with that. I give up. Let's move on, because I won't remember.
And
I
same as
feel
far as when
old.
you went to the back of the ambulance to relay the information that you have been asked to obtain, what, if any, injuries did you observe that Mr. O'Keefe once he was in the back?
Oh, I'm sorry. I observed those injuries in the back of the ambulance. I didn't observe those injuries while he was out on the stretcher. I didn't get a good look at him.
You really hadn't got a good look until you
Right.
went back.
Right.
Now, as far as you indicated, you drove the ambulance from Fairview. Where did you go to?
Good Samaritan Hospital.
And as you were driving that ambulance along the roads from Canton Cover-Up, what, if anything, did you notice as far as visibility, road conditions, things like that?
There was poor visibility. The roads weren't plowed yet, so took probably longer than usual based on the conditions.
And I apologize, but if I can take you just a step back further for a moment, just in reference to when you're in the back of the ambulance, you indicated the injuries that you observed. What, if any, observations did you make as far as clothing that Mr. O'Keefe was wearing?
I noted that he was wearing jeans. I noticed a lighter, like a black zip-up jacket or sweatshirt. It was like a lighter jacket. I noticed he had one.
And that's, I think, news to everybody about the zip-up jacket, because I believe he was in just like a hoodie pullover, not a zip-up one.
Sneaker on, and that was it.
You recall?
And he was missing his belt. There's some interesting things about the clothing. So the clothing that John was wearing, obviously, they talked about the individuals before her testified to cutting his clothes off. That's just what you do in an emergency situation, because they want to assess you all over. So, and look for other injuries. So what happened to the clothes? We know they got balled up and thrown on the floor in the hospital, and were left there till gosh knows who, till when, because we saw photos of the clothing in a pile on the floor. The belt that he was wearing, I don't know if that was ever recovered or what's going on with the belt, but he wasn't wearing a belt when he was picked up, or when they found him. And so there's a lot of things wrong with the clothing. The clothing said that Trooper Proctor took them in his car, and they sat in his car for weeks before he turned them into evidence. So there's that. There's also the talk from the Commonwealth that there's microscopic pieces of the taillight in John's clothes, which it doesn't mean anything to me if Proctor had possession of both. He could have easily planted microscopic pieces of taillight on the clothing themselves. So, I mean, they could have hid like the talk about the poofy jacket, like maybe there actually was one. And because one of the EMTs remembered cutting it off, he was like adamant that he cut it off, but then he was kind of thrown when the defense was like, well, would it surprise you that he wasn't wearing a poofy coat? And so if your memory is that bad here, is it really that good over here? So that was kind of the point that they made. But man, this is a fascinating trial. I decided I'm going to try to give you guys highlights and put them into episodes rather than doing dailies, because everyone on the planet is doing a daily episode recap, whatever, and I don't want to just get lost out there. So I'm going to make my episodes like I've been doing, based on different themes or ideas that I come up with throughout the trial. So like this one we're just doing Katie McLaughlin because, whoa, we'll get there. And then the next episode, did I tell you this already? I don't remember. Is going to be the many statements of Karen Reed, because there are so many different EMT, firefighter, witnesses, and they all say different things that she said. So we're going to get into that. That'll be a fun one too. But this one, let's continue with Katie McLaughlin's direct. It's almost over. And then we will move into the next day.
I don't.
All right, could I see counsel for a second, please?
Okay, and that's it. So that was the end of day 3. And 3 was a half day. Day 4 was Friday. They didn't have court on Wednesday. We're just about to start direct again. Adam Lawley has a couple questions, and then it gets into Alan Jackson's cross-examination, and it gets good.
Ms. Lally?
Thank you. Morning. Now, I have a few more questions for you. So, I'll turn your attention to a period of time you testified about yesterday when you're at, Mr. O'Keefe is in the back of the ambulance. With respect to his clothing, what, if any, observations did you make in regard to that clothing?
He had, in terms of what he was wearing,
First, in terms of what he was wearing.
he was wearing jeans. He had on a dark colored light zip up jacket. And I noticed one sneaker.
A jacket? He wasn't wearing a jacket. A light zip-up jacket, and she noticed the one sneaker. But you didn't look and see if there was another sneaker?
Now, with regard to that clothing, what, if any, observations did you make in regard to the condition of that clothing?
It was soaked through.
As far as tears or holes or anything else with regard to that clothing, what, if any, observations did you make of that?
I didn't see any.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have exhibit number 18.
This stupid picture again. We're going to see the picture of 34 Fairview Road again.
Yes.
And they are... So we've seen this picture multiple times. Multiple witnesses have verified that this is 34 Fairview Road. The jurors are going to get to see 34 Fairview Road later after Katie's done with her testimony. They're going for a jury view. So they're going to see it for themselves. This picture, in my opinion, the reason they chose this, I mean, I know they chose it because the area, I'll show you, watch my mouse, right around here, I believe, is where, I mean, maybe a little bit lower in the picture, but like in this area is where John's body was found. You can even see like all the footprints around where there are no pictures of the body, by the way. There's no pictures of the scene. There's no pictures of anything of how things were found. Anyways, so this picture, I think because of the angle, it makes the yard look huge, but it's actually not. And people who have been there have said that the yard is very small, and if the jury came to view it, they're going to see, you would absolutely see someone laying on the lawn if you came out of the house after they were there. So presumably, for the state's theory, John was down and out by like 12:30, 12:35 a.m. So he would have been laying there all night. The people that left would have had to walk out, get to their cars, which were also parked nearby. So you would have had to maybe potentially even walk right past him. So they're all full of BS, big piles of BS. And when they tell you that they didn't see him and he was there from midnight or 12:30 a.m. until 6 a.m. like that. I don't think he was put out there until after 2:30. 2:30, we know that Lucky Laughlin saw no body, and then he did another sweep around 3 something, 3:30 something, and there was a Ford Edge parked there in the spot where John was found later. And I read somewhere that it's presumed they might have taken a car to move the body over to that spot to avoid footprints, because otherwise you would have had footprints in the snow coming from your house trying to carry him. And bingo. Why aren't they checking a Ford Edge owned by one of the Alberts? Many of the Alberts own Ford Edges. So multiples of them own Ford Edges. Go find them. I don't know. The police just stopped doing their job. All right. Anyways, sorry, I got on a tangent. So they're going to talk about this stupid photo again and get it in as an exhibit.
Now, first firefighter McLaughlin,
Or do
you
I
recognize what's up on the
is.
screen as Exhibit 18?
Do I recognize
Recognize
what it is? Yes.
and what do you recognize it to be?
The address of the call, 34 Fairview Road.
Now, with respect to this photograph, do you observe within it or where Mr. O'Keefe was on the ground when you were surprised?
From this angle, no, I don't.
And if you could, it was not on the photograph, is it off to the left, the right, or where would it be in relation to this photograph?
To the left, I would say.
And,
Oh, so his
how
body
far
was
off
to the
frame do you
left.
believe,
I'm not sure. So my view of the call was, my reference point wasn't a house on either side. The patient was off the road. So my view of this call was the patient was on the side of the road. The only thing that I noted was a fire hydrant. So in relation to, I know it was to the left of the house, but I'm not sure exactly how far left it would be from this picture, from this angle.
What? Oh my gosh. I forgot what I was going to say because she, floored me with that. I don't know. She's something, huh, with her answers. They're weird, if anything. They're just a little off.
So your memory is to the left of the house near your fire hydrant, is that correct?
Yes.
Take that down. I have no further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. McLaughlin.
Morning.
You responded to the call of an unresponsive male in the snow at 34 Fairview. That was the address you recall, correct?
Correct.
The house you just looked at, that is in fact 34 Fairview, right?
Correct.
As Mr. O'Keefe was being transported by ambulance, you were instructed by firefighter Flamati to get information about the victim from Karen Reed, correct?
He wasn't being transported by the ambulance at that time. He was on the stretcher, and Tony, who was at the head of the stretcher, asked me to get information from Miss Reed about the patient, but he wasn't being transported in the ambulance at that time.
Who's Tony?
Firefighter Flamati.
Got it. When you did you follow those directives?
I did.
When you finally approached Miss Reed in order to get that medical history as best you could, what did the scene look like? Who was with you or around you?
So they started to move the stretcher towards the ambulance. Miss Reed was sort of, I guess I would describe it as moving around the scene. So she was moving, kind of going in circles. So I was really just focused on her, trying to get her to converse with me and get those questions. So that I wasn't really noticing anything else at that point. I was more just trying to contact her, and she was moving around.
What were you wearing at the time?
I had my winter fire jacket on.
What color is it?
It's yellow and red.
Bright yellow for safety purposes.
Yes.
When you began your actual questioning, once everybody sort of stood still, and you began your questioning of Miss Reed, you were standing in one spot, Miss Reed was standing to your right, is that right?
Well, the questioning started, as I said, she was moving around the scene. So the questioning was ongoing as she was moving around to different locations. I don't know exactly how many of the questions I got out during the time that she was moving around. At one point, we did come to a stop, and at that point, she was to my right.
That's the point I want to focus your attention on, if I could. When you came to a stop, that's the point at which you recall the statement being made that you attribute to my client.
Yes.
Okay. And in that group, who was there? I want to make sure I understand this exactly.
So there was Miss Reed to my right. There was a civilian woman to my left. There was a police officer who was not directly across from me, but I would say maybe diagonal to me, closer to Miss Reed.
Your Honor, I'm holding a photograph of something shows the Commonwealth Mayor Coach.
Yes.
Photographs.
Mr. McLaughlin, a still photograph. I'm going to ask you to take a quick look at that photograph and look up after you've studied it for a second and tell me if you recognize people that are in that photograph.
I recognize people in it.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes. Is this an exhibit, or are you moving to introduce it?
I'm moving to introduce it. It has not been introduced as yet.
Okay. So go ahead and have the witness adopt it first.
Sure. Do you see the person closest to frame? Closest to the camera?
Yes.
In what appears to be a yellow and red jacket.
Yes.
Who's that?
That would be me.
Who's to your right?
It appears to be Miss Reed,
And to your left?
a civilian woman,
And across, as you said, sort of diagonal closer to Miss Reed is?
a police officer.
Do you know that officer's name, by the way?
I don't know his name.
Okay. Your Honor, with that, I would ask that this be marked as next in order.
Okay. Is there any objection?
No objection.
So we are going to remark these exhibits today because of the problems that I indicated at sidebar. How do you want to do this, Madam Reporter? I don't know where we start from. Tori, how many are in evidence? We've heard numbers 1, 3, 309, 247. We need to straighten this out to make sure it's appropriate for you. You know what, Madam Clerk, Madam Court Reporter, just mark it as the next exhibit number, whatever in the hundreds that is, and we'll take care of this today. I don't want to waste your time, folks, while we do this, but it's very important that we do it. All right.
Thank you. Told us about when you heard the statement that you've attributed to my client, correct?
Sorry, say that again?
Sure. This is a moment in time, it captures a moment in time when you're standing there. To your right is Karen Reed, which you've described. To your left is a civilian female, which you've described. And across from you is an officer, which you've also described.
Yes.
So this would be the time, or close in time to the time, that you heard the statement that you attribute to Ms. Reed, correct?
Yes.
The first time you ever made that official report, or an official report to law enforcement regarding that statement was January 30th, 2022, correct?
Well, yes and no. The statement was made in front of the police officer, so that would technically be the first time that statement was made to a police officer in my presence. And then, yes, I testified to it on January 30th, as you said.
You said it on January 30th. You weren't testifying under oath, correct?
Okay. Said it.
Okay.
Yes.
My question was really, and I appreciate you clarifying, my question was really the first time you actually told this statement to any law enforcement officer was on January 30th.
Yes.
Okay, we can take that down. That was when you met with Trooper Michael Crockett, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, that was very close in time to the event. It was the next day. Is that right?
Yes.
The events were close.
The 29th. Yeah. So it would be the next day.
Right, 29th.
Yep.
Okay. The events were fresh in your mind at that time?
Yes.
You obviously knew about the importance of that interview. You knew that it dealt with a police officer who had passed?
I knew it was important to talk to the police about what I heard.
And you wanted to be accurate?
Yes.
You wanted to be as detailed as you possibly could?
Yes.
And you understand that memories, obviously, they get a little worse with time, not better with time, right?
Sure.
The closer in time you are to the event, the fresher your memory is going to be about the details of that event. You would agree with that, right?
Sure.
You told Trooper Proctor the day after the event, on January 30th, that the statement that you attribute to my client was actually made to the female, not to you in response to your questioning. That's what you told Trooper Proctor, correct?
I don't have those notes in front of me, so I don't know that I can tell you that that's correct, but the statement was made in response to my question. However, the Miss Reed was looking at the civilian woman as she said that.
Does it refresh your recollection that what you
Don't read what you think refreshes a recollection. You can show or you cannot read it. Yes.
take a look?
She's so rude.
Highlighted portion of that report. And look up when you're finished.
Okay,
Ma'am?
sure.
you want me to
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection about what you told Trooper Proctor on January 30th?
Yes.
And you told Trooper Proctor,
No,
quote,
let her.
In terms
Hold on. I'll see it said.
I'm gonna let him get on with the question. I don't know. The judge has shown her true bias in the last few days. It hasn't taken much,
Ma'am,
but
Your Honor?
Yes.
In fact, what you told Trooper Proctor was, quote,
can tell.
Karen then turned to her friend and stated, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. End quote. Correct?
Okay.
Is that yes?
Yes, if you're saying that's in quotation marks in the in that, then yes.
That's what's in the report.
Okay.
And you don't have to agree with me. I'm asking yes or no questions, not okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So in fact, what you told Trooper Proctor was that Karen Reed looked at the female to your left and said 4 times, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Correct?
Yes.
And have you since learned the name or identity of the female that was standing to your left?
No.
You're aware that the female that was standing to your left reported the exact same statement?
John
No.
McCabe.
Are you aware that the female standing to your left reported that exact same statement as, could I have hit him, did I hit him, did I hit him?
No, I'm not aware of that.
You then went back to
John
the ambulance
McCabe.
after you heard that statement that you believed you heard my client state.
Yes.
You opened the ambulance door, correct?
Yes.
The back door,
The side door.
the side door. And there were two firefighter paramedics in that ambulance at the time, correct?
I believe there were more than 2 at that time.
2 of them included firefighter Nuttall and firefighter Flamont.
Yes.
And at that point, you told them what you believed you had just heard.
So I went into the back of the ambulance. I said, this is his name, this is his date of birth. She says he doesn't have any medical history or allergies, doesn't take daily medications. And then I said, she's saying I hit him. And firefighter Nuttall motioned to his face and said something.
Objection, Your Honor.
Ask another question.
So the answer to my question is, yes, you told in front of Flamotti and Nuttall the phrase, I hit him.
Yes.
He had to object because she was not answering the question that he asked, and she kept going beyond the question that he asked. So she allowed the objection because you're allowed to do that when you have a witness that is like hostile or uncooperative and continues to keep talking after you've gotten a yes or a no or something like that. So she was right to move it along.
You can write that in any report.
I don't write a report in this scenario of my job.
Let her finish the answer, please.
So there are 2 people that will write reports in my department on a call, one being the lead paramedic and the other being the officer who's on scene. So those are the people that write reports, and I was neither of those, so I did not write that in a report.
Okay.
That's correct.
So let me ask the question again. You didn't write it in any report.
No.
You didn't write it in any notes.
A lot of and it is believed that a lot of the witnesses here, being fire department, a lot of EMTs, fire department, they don't have to write the report unless, and that's another reason why Katie McLaughlin is so important, because she wasn't the lead on that call, so she didn't have to write a report. Only the lead person has to write the report. So she's not tied to saying any one thing from the beginning. And she wasn't tied to any statements until after she talked to Proctor and he told her what her statement was.
No.
You didn't document that statement in any way whatsoever, correct?
Other than my interview with Proctor and my subsequent testimony.
You didn't document that statement in any way yourself, did you?
No.
Since January 30th, in that conversation that we just talked about with Trooper Proctor, your statement has evolved. Is that right?
I don't know how to answer that.
You testified yesterday to something quite different
Not quite different.
than what you testified, I'm sorry, than what you stated to Trooper Proctor.
Respectfully, I think my testimony has been pretty consistent.
You testified to something yesterday quite different in context than what you told Trooper Proctor. Isn't that right?
I don't know that that's right.
Well, you told Trooper Proctor, Karen Reed looked at a female standing to your left, said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Right?
Yes.
Yesterday, you told these jurors that Karen Reed said, I hit him, and an officer said, you what? And she repeated, I hit him, and the officer immediately turned and went to find another sergeant. Is that right or no? Yes or no?
No, there was more to that testimony.
That's
I
not what
think.
you said yesterday?
I think I said more than that, than what you just repeated.
Is what I said consistent with what you said yesterday? There's a lot of things that you said, more of. I'm asking, is that the sum and substance of what you told these jurors yesterday?
Yes.
So you would agree that from that time till yesterday, your story has evolved. It's changed.
Would I agree with that?
No.
I don't know that I agree with that.
You think the story that you told Trooper Proctor is exactly the same
I understand what you're saying. So I understand what you're saying.
So has your story evolved?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Damn, he got her to admit it. He got her to admit it. And that's a great pause. Should have used that on my thumbnail. He got her to admit her testimony has evolved. It's changed. She can't be sure of her details. We can't trust her details because her details are shifty. They've been shifty from the start. Anyways, let's move on.
Ms. McLaughlin, who's Caitlin Albert?
I went to high school with somebody named Caitlin Albert.
Somebody named Caitlin Albert.
I went to high school with somebody named Caitlin Albert.
So do you know Caitlin Albert?
I do.
You friends with Caitlin Albert?
I would say more acquaintances, not close friends.
How do you describe an acquaintance?
I would say that we have mutual friends, so we might see each other occasionally because of mutual friends, but we don't have a one-on-one friendship or hang out regularly.
Who's her dad?
I don't know.
Do you know who her family is?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why?
Yes.
He has a right to ask these questions. This is so frustrating to watch. This gets really frustrating. All right, come on. I think this is when they go into their proffer. Yeah. So I'm actually going to skip her proffer. We're going to come back to it. I want you to watch it in order like the jury. So the proffer is something done outside of the jury's presence. It's still on the record, but there's just no jury in the room. And so I don't want that guy on the screen. So it's an offer of what this person is going to testify to, basically to the judge. So the judge can decide whether or not there's legal grounds to let it in or whatever the case may be. So they're doing a proffer with her about her relationship with Caitlin Albert, the daughter of Brian Albert, homeowner 34 Fairview Road. So we're going to skip past the proffer just because I want you to see it like as if you're a juror. Like I said, I want you to see what they're seeing first, and then we'll come back and we'll do the proffer. I want to watch it out of order. So I think this is when the jury comes back.
Large group.
No.
Oh, wait.
You've never been to her house before that?
I'm way too far.
In the photograph. Want to drop it on you?
It's a picture of me, Kate.
Wait, where's the... Okay. Sorry, this is frustrating. I thought... Where's the proffer?
I would say more acquaintances, not close friends.
How do you describe an acquaintance?
I would say that we have mutual friends, so we might see each other occasionally because of mutual friends, but we don't have a one-on-one friendship or hang out regularly.
Who's her dad?
Alright, so we just watched that. I'm trying to find where the proffer is.
I couldn't tell you the exact date, but we probably had them for
Okay.
6 months and a year.
All right.
It's gotta be here.
And Commonwealth, you've not seen these before?
No, Your Honor.
Right. So
I don't want us to see that. It looks like they don't take another break after the proffer, but I know they do. That's what I'm looking for, is the break in this. I think, okay. I think this is where it goes. And then that whole thing was the proffer. So let's, yeah, we should be good here. Sorry, that was hard to tell. Yeah, okay, now. So this is the jury coming in. They're watching the jury come in. All that portion was like I said, outside the presence of the jury. So we will get back to it. We will watch it again, or we'll come right back to it after we're finished with her testimony. So this is in front of the jury.
From time to time, there are things that I need to discuss with the lawyers, as you saw. We try and do it as quickly as we can. It's in an effort to make sure that what you see and hear in this case is appropriate for you to see and hear. So sometimes we spend a little time now that will save us a lot of time later. So we do appreciate your patience.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. McLaughlin, thank you for your patience. When we last left off, I was asking you about your relationship with Caitlin Albert. You recall that?
Yes.
I want to ask you a few more questions about that. You and Caitlin Albert have known each other for how long?
Since high school.
Which is, give me a span of time.
So probably about 10 years.
You have traveled with Caitlin Albert and friends. When I say traveled, I don't mean to exotic locations. I mean day trips, etc.
Yes.
You have a group of mutual friends together, correct?
We have mutual friends. Correct.
Those mutual friends have gone on day trips with you and Caitlin Albert involved?
Correct.
On more than one occasion, as a matter of fact?
Correct.
On many occasions, as a matter of fact?
I don't know.
More than 5?
I don't know.
More than 10?
I don't know.
You're gonna find she doesn't know a lot or doesn't recall a lot.
You've seen photographs of you with Caitlin Albert on some of these day trips, correct?
Yes.
You've seen at least 3 of those photographs.
Yes.
You're friends with Caitlin Albert on social media?
Yes.
Other than the 3 photographs that you've seen, we just talked about, there have been other events that you've been at with Caitlin Albert that weren't necessarily photographed, or we don't have those photographs, correct?
Probably.
You know that Caitlin Albert is the same Caitlin Albert that's the daughter of Brian and Nicole Albert, as you sit here.
Yes. As I sit here today, yes.
And you know that Caitlin Albert also has siblings.
She says, yes, as I sit here today. Like, come on. We know that you know her. And in fact, there have been even more pictures that have come out since this whole thing that prove that they know each other. So if you can even see in the thumbnail, the picture, one of the pictures that he tried to get into evidence, but was not successful, was the picture that you can see here. She is the one behind the girl in the blue bikini. So the the blue bikini girl is Caitlin Albert. The girl behind her is the woman we're seeing on the stand, Kate McLaughlin. So just think of that. There are multiple pictures out there on social media of the two of them together in social settings, and there are more coming out now because of this testimony here.
Brian Albert Jr., correct?
As I sit here today, yes, I know that.
And you also know, as you sit here today, that 34 Fairview was, at the time of January.
He's a brilliant master at words, because he keeps saying, as you sit here today, like you didn't know that Brian Albert owned that home back in 2022 when this incident occurred.
29th, 2022, the Albert home, correct?
I know that as of today.
Just gonna deny she knew it.
You indicated,
People,
let me rephrase that. When you showed up at 34 Fairview that morning, did you recognize that address or recognize the home as being that of Caitlin Albert's?
No.
You have since learned that that was Caitlin Albert's home.
I know that now.
Right. And you gave your original statement to Trooper Proctor the next day.
Yes.
And from that day to this day, or let's take yesterday, from that day to yesterday, you learned that 34 Fairview was the Canton Albert family home, correct?
You're asking if I know from...
Between those 2 days,
Yes.
between the time you spoke with
Yes.
Proctor in this report till yesterday when you testified, you now know that that's the Albert home.
Yes.
And you also indicated that between that report that you gave to Trooper Proctor, that statement that you gave to Trooper Proctor, and yesterday's testimony, your statement has evolved. You've already admitted that, correct?
I don't think I agreed with you on that.
It's changed. It's different.
I've
She
always
did
testified
too.
to my...
she did too agree and say that her testimony has changed. But now she's backtracking and saying, no, I never agreed to you. I never said that. Let's listen again.
Correct?
I don't think I agreed with you on that.
It's changed. It's different.
I've always testified to my... I feel as though my testimony has been consistent.
I appreciate how you might feel. I'm just interested in the actual fact. You didn't tell Trooper Proctor anything about this officer questioning my client. Correct?
Objection.
So I'm going to see counsel at sidebar because I think this morphed into a different.
Uh-oh. Judge Bev not happy. Judge Bev is never happy when it's the defense's turn. She sighs relentlessly in the mic, so unprofessionally and rudely, by the way. Her disdain for the defense just comes off. I mean, you can see it. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting.
You agree, Mr. McLaughlin, that the statement that you gave to Trooper Proctor is not the same as the statement that you gave to these jurors yesterday. Correct?
Yes.
Can I just moment?
Yes.
A couple of other, Proctor. Your visit to Canton PD was coordinated by another officer to put you and Trooper Proctor together for the interview, correct?
I don't recall that.
You recall being contacted by a completely different officer to say, hey, Trooper Proctor wants to talk to you, come on into Canton PD, let's have an interview.
I don't remember exactly how the interview was set up.
So that was my next question. You may have just told me this. Do you have any recollection who set that interview up?
I don't.
Does the name Kevin Albert sound familiar?
No.
Do you know Kevin Albert?
No.
You know him to be a police officer at Canton PD?
No.
Do you know him to be the brother of Brian Albert?
Objection.
No.
The objection sustained.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Lally, any redirect?
Yes, sir. So, Firefighter McLaughlin, you went to high school with Caitlin Alford, correct?
Yes.
And could you describe the nature of your relationship, if any, with Caitlin?
I would describe it as we're not close friends. I would say we're more acquaintances. We have mutual friends. I don't have a one-on-one relationship with her.
And you were asked some questions about social media, correct?
Yes.
And if you could, or if you could guess the name, about how many friends, and I'm sort of throwing air quotes in there, how many friends on social media would you have?
I don't know, probably 500.
And of those probably 500 friends on social media, how many of those are actual friends that you talk to, interact with beyond social media?
Much less than that.
Now, prior to, well, let me ask you this. As far as, would you say that you saw Caitlin Albert more so when you were in high school, or more so since you have graduated from high school?
I would say probably more in high school because we were there every day. So
And about what year or so was it that you graduated?
2014.
And as far as any sort of photographs that were referenced to you, have you seen those photographs?
Here
Yes.
today, I saw them.
Do you have any idea where or when those photographs were taken?
I don't remember.
And of those photographs, it's not just you and Caitlin Albert in a photograph, is that correct?
Correct.
So a larger group of people, is that correct?
Correct.
When you were asked about sort of these day trips, they were sort of trips specifically on a day to a beach, it looks like, correct?
Correct.
And to a beach with a larger group of people, is that correct?
Correct.
And with reference to Caitlin Albert specifically, have you ever socialized with her in any setting beyond a setting that contained a large group of people?
No.
Now, with respect to, you went to, when you say high school, you graduated from Canton High School, correct?
Correct.
And you grew up in Canton, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you know Caitlin Albert before you attended Canton High School?
No, that's probably when we first really interacted with high school.
And essentially, you live within the town I'm sorry, you work within the town that you grew up in, correct?
Correct.
And is that
So Canton.
normal from a civil service perspective?
No, from a civil service perspective, you're given more points for residency, so it's actually, I would say, preferred, or you're placed higher on the list if you have residency in that town.
So it's actually preferred and more common than uncommon as far as growing up in a town and then working in that same town in a civil service position like a firefighter.
Yes.
Now, during the course of the time that you've been on Canton Fire Department, have you received calls to residencies or other places or even patients that you either knew or were familiar with?
Yes.
And would that be a reason for you to not want to call?
No.
And you have an obligation, wouldn't you say, to respond to a call when the call is made and you're on duty in that station, correct?
Yes.
The objection sustained. Ask the question differently.
As far as when you're on duty as a firefighter at a particular station house and you get a call, what, if any, choice do you have to respond to any particular call?
I don't have a choice. I just have to respond to the call.
And then prior to that date of January 29th, had you ever been over through socialization or otherwise Caitlin Albert's house?
Not that I ever remember.
Had she ever been over your house?
No.
And again, had you ever...
Isn't it weird the way that was worded? Not that I ever remember. That's not how you say that. It's more like not that I can remember or not that I can recall, not that I can ever remember. Let's listen to that again.
And then prior to that date of January 29th, had you ever been over through socialization or otherwise Caitlin Albert's house?
Not that I ever remember.
Not that I ever
No.
remember.
And again, had you ever
Weird.
socialized with her outside of a large group of people?
No.
When you responded on that morning, just after 6 a.m., the house of 34 Fairview Road, did you know who lived there?
No.
During the time since January 29th of 2022, have you ever spoken to Caitlin Albert about what happened that morning in front of 34 Fairview Road?
No.
Now, you were asked some questions on cross-examination about knowing sort of Caitlin Albert's parents' names or siblings' names or things of that, correct?
Right.
And prior to January 29th, you didn't know any of those names, is that correct?
No.
You learned of them subsequently, is that correct?
Yes.
may we approach this briefly?
I don't believe it. They might be done with her. I can't remember. So what do you guys think based on that so far? Do you believe her? Do you find her trustworthy? Do you think that she's telling you the truth when she says these things? When she says that Karen said, I hit him, and she said it to me, or versus she was answering when looking at the other person, or what? I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. I asked her the question, and she was looking at the other girl, so I thought she was answering to her. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Because you asked the question. I think this is it. Oh, a little bit more.
So, Ms. McLaughlin, you learned of those other people's names within the Albert family subsequent to your response to this call on January 29th. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you learned of those through sort of various news or media reports in relation to this case, not something that you had any conversations with anybody about, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
All right.
Your Honor, if I may.
Okay. Okay.
You indicated, Ms. McLaughlin, Mr. Lally just asked you about these 500
God,
friends on
Bev.
social media.
Those sighs. Awful. So unprofessional. I can't take it with these sighs of hers. I need a breathometer because a Bev breathometer. Just because I can't stand the way that she does this sighing every time she doesn't like what the defense is saying or doing, which is all the time.
Mr. Lally just asked you about these 500 friends on social media. A couple quick questions about that. Of those 500 friends on social media, how many of those have you taken day trips with?
I don't know.
How many of those have you gone to the beach with?
I don't know.
How many of those have you posed for photographs with?
I don't know.
How many of those have you posed for photographs in swimwear with?
I don't know.
How many of those have you been photographed with your arm around while that other friend is drinking a beer?
Sustained. Sustained.
She was ready to say something even if Adam Lally did not object. Do you hear her? She was like, like ready to jump in on what he was about to say. Let's hear that again.
For photographs in swimwear with?
I don't know.
How many of those have you been photographed with your arm around while that other friend is drinking a beer?
Sustained. Sustained.
She was so ready.
Ms. McLaughlin, all of those things that I just mentioned, you have done with Miss Caitlin Albert.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right.
It doesn't matter that the objections were sustained. The jury heard that. They heard the questions. So they know those photos exist. Judge Bev did not let the photos in for the proffer after, let's find the proffer where it began. Now we're going to go back and watch the proffer. This is what she would have said had Alan Jackson been allowed to cross-examine her the way that he should have, without limitations on this, because it is absolutely something that is relevant and material to this case. The relationships. So the defense's theory of the case is Karen Reed is framed, for lack of a better word. You say theory of the case. So she was framed. So we know that these relationships, these inner close personal ties that Canton has with the Albert family, it's gross, and we're starting to see it all now. I mean, you've got to be able to let them talk about it, because it's a very important factor in the motivation that I think someone asked in a stream somewhere else, or in a comment, that, like, why does it matter if they know each other? Well, her knowing Caitlin Albert and knowing that if one of the Alberts caused these injuries on John, we don't want to talk about the Alberts. We want to pin it on somebody else. So she has a motivation to protect the Alberts as well, especially if they're friends. She has a motivation to lie. She has a motivation to, maybe she's being bullied and threatened by them, since we're hearing a lot of bullying and threatening from the McAlberts. And I call them the McAlberts because that's the McCabe's and the Alberts. It's mostly the Alberts, but Jen McCabe is a mean girl too, so we throw her in there. All right, so now we're going to watch the proffer. And this is questions that Alan should have been legally given the leeway to ask, and I think these pictures should have come in, and I really do think they're going to find another way to get them in, or at least to get in some other testimony from somebody else to basically make Katie McLaughlin look not quite so credible, even though she did a pretty good job of that herself. But this is the proffer, and remember, the jury did not see this part. And this is, I think it's important that the jury should have seen this. So I'll shut up.
If you need to. You may have trouble actually getting those into evidence, but I'm going to let you find out. You can ask her to identify them, how long ago they were, things like that.
Thank you.
All right, could we bring in Ms. McLaughlin, please? Yes. And Commonwealth, you just saw these today. I'm sorry, I don't remember if I asked you that.
Yes, and yes.
And you were objecting that?
Do we believe that? No. The Commonwealth has been preparing for this just as long as the defense. I'm sure they know where all their skeletons are in their closet, because there's many. And Caitlin Albert being good friends with, Caitlin Albert being good friends with Katie McLaughlin, the firefighter EMT who says, yeah, I heard Karen say, I hit him. Over and over, she kept saying it. I heard it. I heard her say it right out of her mouth. That's a key eyewitness saying, I heard this grand confession, which even if Karen did say it, that doesn't necessarily mean that she did do it. She wasn't in her right mind. She wasn't thinking straight. Everyone was saying she was hysterical. So why would you believe her that she said, I hit him, when his injuries look nothing like being hit by a car? It's crazy. Anyways, here we go.
You objected to sidebar that these come in at all?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, he knew. He
here's
knew
the
about
fourth one,
these
sorry.
photos.
Mr. Jackson, here's the last one. All right, so Ms. McLaughlin, Mr. Jackson's going to be allowed to ask you questions outside the presence of the jury, and you're still under oath, and you have to answer them truthfully, okay?
Okay.
Ms. McLaughlin, when, just briefly as a predicate, when you stepped out, I just want to make sure we're very clear. Did you have a conversation with anybody from the Commonwealth between the time you walked out of the courtroom just now?
Just about if I needed a drink of water or to use the restroom.
Okay, but nothing about the substance of your testimony.
No.
Ms. McLaughlin, I asked you before we broke if you know who Caitlin Albert is.
Yes.
You said that you went to high school with somebody by that name. Correct?
Yes.
You, in fact, know that person as a friend, correct?
I know her.
She's more than an acquaintance.
I would say she's an acquaintance. She's not a close friend.
Is she in a group of friends of yours?
We have mutual friends.
How long have you known her?
Probably since high school.
When you say, and I don't want to ask your age. I wouldn't do that. How many years? How long of a span of years have you known her?
Since high school, so maybe 10.
And you know her family, generally.
I don't.
You don't know anything about her family?
I don't know her family.
Have you ever been to her house?
Not that I recall ever being there.
Not that you recall, or you haven't. Those two different things.
I don't recall ever being there.
Okay, so you might have been there. You just don't recall.
I don't recall ever being there.
Okay.
I don't recall ever being there. Yeah, my foot, she doesn't recall.
If I were to ask you if you have ever been to her house, yes or no, you cannot answer that because you don't know. You cannot recall, correct?
I would say, I would lean towards no. I have no recollection of ever being at her house.
Do we believe this?
Are you friends with her on social media?
Yes.
May I approach you on that?
Yes.
I'm just going to leave all four of these up here. I know what they look like. Can you do me a favor and take a look at the first document? What does that document appear to be?
It says Caitlin's friends.
What does it look like? That's a printout of.
I'm sorry.
What does that look like? It's a printout of. Does that look like it's from Facebook or one of the social media apps?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. Some social media.
Okay. Under Caitlin's friends, do you see your handle, for lack of a better phrase?
I do.
Okay. Is that you?
Yes.
Okay. Can you look at the next photograph? Before we talk about that next photograph, which is, I should go in order for the record, Your Honor. The first one was H. Before we talk about I, which is the next photograph, how long have you been social media friends, quote, friends with Caitlin Albert?
I don't know.
More than 5 years?
Probably.
More than 8 years?
I don't know.
The second photograph, or the second document appears to be a photograph. It's I, is that right?
Yes.
Do you see yourself in that photograph?
I do.
Do you see Caitlin in that photograph?
I do.
When was that photograph taken?
I have no idea.
Where was that photograph taken?
I don't know.
You have no idea how long ago that was?
I don't.
What was the event that was depicted, or that is depicted in that photograph?
I don't know.
Is that local, or was that on a trip somewhere?
I don't know. Probably local. If it's a beach, I don't remember. I've never been away to a beach on vacation with all of these people, so probably local.
When we say local, let's talk about local. I don't mean we may have different definitions. Where would that be? What beach? I'm not as familiar with the location.
I'm not sure.
Maybe on the Cape?
Possibly.
Okay. Do you recognize some of the other folks in that photograph?
I do.
Matter of fact, there's a lot of people in that photograph, right?
There's a lot of people in it.
Did you take a trip with all those people at some point in the past?
Take a trip.
To the beach.
Did I go to the beach at some point with these people? Yes.
Okay. When did you go to the beach with all those folks?
I don't know. I don't know when this picture is from.
Have you
It
gone-
seems old to me, but
Well, you can see yourself. I mean,
yeah.
What was that? Did you say it seems old to you?
Yeah, to me. This isn't.
She like jumped on that, Bev. What was that? It seems old to you? Because if it's too old, she can say, it's not timely or whatever. It's not relevant.
Like a recent to me.
how old do you think that photograph is?
I don't know. It could be around high school. I'm not sure.
And I know Mr. Jackson didn't want to ask you how old you are. When did you get out of high school?
2014.
Okay.
I graduated.
So could that have been around 2014?
It could be.
So you've known Caitlin for at least that long.
Yeah.
And when I say travel, I mean travel outside of Canton. Gone places with her, correct?
Yes.
Posed for photographs with her,
Yes.
with other folks.
Yes.
Looks like socializing and partying, correct?
Looks like socializing.
Maybe a small vacation.
I've never been on vacation with a big group of people like this.
That doesn't look like what would you call that if that's not like a mini vacation?
A day at the beach?
A day at the beach, okay. So maybe a day vacation.
Sure.
Okay. Let's look at the next photograph. Jay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I do need to remind myself. That photograph looks a little older, correct?
They both look old to me. I don't know when they're from.
I'm going to ask you the same questions about that. These aren't trick questions. I don't want to waste your time. What's that from?
I don't remember specifically what or where this is.
Do you see yourself in that photograph?
I do.
Do you see Caitlin in that photograph?
I do.
You're all posing for the camera, correct?
Yes.
What's the location?
I don't know.
No idea.
I don't.
This is yet another socializing event with Caitlin that you can't recall.
I don't know where this is
Is that-
exactly.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on your words. Go ahead.
I don't know where this is exactly.
So you've had so many socializing events with Caitlin and other folks that you can't pinpoint this one as opposed to any of the others that you've had.
No, I'm saying I can't. These photos are old. I don't know. I don't remember where these were or the circumstances around them. That's what I'm saying.
You see how you're dressed in that photo?
Yes.
You see you see the other friends that are there with you?
Yeah.
How many people would you estimate are in that photo?
Do you want me to count how many people?
Give me it. I don't have photo in front of me, so just give me, is it more than 5?
12
12 people?
ish.
Okay. Do you recognize those dozen people?
I do.
Did you go on a day trip with those dozen people?
Yeah, possibly.
I recognize all the people. I have photographic evidence of me being on a day trip with all these people, but no, I don't. Maybe. I don't remember doing that, so no, I can't say that I did.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't remember.
How many times have you gone on day trips with those dozen people?
I don't know.
How about turning back to photograph I? How many times have you gone on day trips and socialized with those number of people? So it's like probably double that, 20 or 25 people.
I don't know.
That's a big group of friends of yours that includes Caitlin Albert, right?
A big group of mutual friends.
So it's not just that she's a mutual friend, she's a friend. Isn't that right?
As I said before, I would consider myself more of an acquaintance. We have mutual friends. I wouldn't consider her a close friend, but yeah, I mean that would be my answer.
You basically grew up with her.
Come
high
on.
school with her.
I didn't grow up with her. I went to high school with her.
When I say grow up with her, I mean you grew up in the same town as her, right?
Grew up in the same town.
Went to the same high school as she did.
Yes.
Socialized with the same friends as she did.
Yes.
Went on day trips with her.
Yes.
And apparently have all the same friend group. Right?
I don't know that we have all the same friend group. These are people that we're both friends with.
But you don't consider her anything more than just an acquaintance.
I think I described it to you.
The answer to my question is you don't consider her to be anything more than an acquaintance.
I wouldn't consider her to be a close friend.
Now let's take a look at the last photograph.
That's
Describe what's in that photograph.
that photograph right there.
It's a picture of me. Caitlin is in it, and there's seems to be other people in it as well.
May I approach?
Yes.
Them drinking and hanging out in bathing suits and
Both of
having
you
a
take it.
good time.
Want to drop it on you? That's a close-up photograph of who?
Caitlin, and I'm also in it.
And you're doing what in the photograph as it relates to Caitlin?
It seems like I'm kind of kneeling down next to her.
Touching her?
Can I see that for just a minute, please?
Ugh, Bev.
I'm sorry, can you show me you? Okay.
So just for the record, may I approach one more time?
Yes.
Thank you. Take a look at that one more time. You're sort of just behind Caitlin in that photograph?
Yes.
Caitlin's the one drinking the beer?
Yes.
You got your right arm around her?
Yes.
You both appear to be wearing swimwear,
Yes.
bathing suits,
Yes.
and you're giving some sort of sign with your left hand?
No, I'm not.
Is that somebody else's hand that I saw? Maybe
It's
that's
Caitlin's hand.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't have the photograph in front of me. I don't have it committed to memory. Looks like that's a photograph that you and Caitlin posed for together, correct?
It seems like it's a close-up of a bigger, like a picture. It seems to be zoomed in on a group of people.
Which was posted on social media.
Okay.
Is that right?
Are you telling me that?
I'm asking you that. Have you ever seen that posted on social media?
I don't recall seeing this picture, but if it was on social media, then okay.
How long ago was that picture taken?
I don't know.
Who took the picture?
I don't know.
Where were you when the photograph was taken?
Probably at a beach if we're wearing bathing suits.
Probably at a beach or at a beach?
Well, I can't see a beach in the picture. We're in bathing suits. It could be at a beach.
Right. Do you recognize the bathing suit that you're wearing in the photograph?
No.
You literally don't even recognize your own outfit?
No.
So that doesn't help define where you were and when that photograph was taken?
No, sir.
Do any of these photographs remind you that you've been to Caitlin's house at some point in your friendship with her?
No.
Has Caitlin ever been to your house?
Not to my recollection.
When was the last time you talked to Caitlin?
I don't remember exactly. It's probably been a few years.
When was the last time you went to an event, a socializing event with Caitlin?
Again, I don't remember exactly.
Did you talk to Caitlin at any point at or around, on or around January 29th, 2022?
No,
When was the last time you had talked to Caitlin before January 29th, 2022?
I don't know.
Would have been a day before, a week before, a month before?
No, I don't talk to her. Like I said, we're not like close friends, so it's like pretty infrequent that we would interact. So I don't know when the last time before that.
What about texting or Snapchatting or communicating in that way?
I don't remember.
Would have been
They also were on the track team together in high school. So you're telling me they were on a team together in high school. They both grow up in the same town and probably went to similar grade schools and then definitely came to the same high school if they didn't know each other earlier. And you're telling me they didn't know each other? Come on, that they're not friends? I don't believe it.
a week before the 29th?
I don't think so.
You don't think so, or you know so?
I don't think so.
What about after the 29th, after you responded to 34 Fairview? You ever have any communication with her?
Not that I can recall.
So is that something that you think you might remember if you responded to a house of a father where there's a police officer dead or dying on the yard, on the lawn, 30 feet from the front door? You might have had a conversation with Caitlin?
I've never had a conversation with Caitlin about that call or this case.
Did you ever
Liar.
contact any of your other friends about the fact that you responded to Caitlin's parents' house?
No.
Were you ever asked about this relationship that you had with Caitlin Albert, this friendship that you had with Caitlin Albert at or near the time of the 29th of January?
No.
Did you ever disclose to anybody that you had a relationship with Caitlin Albert at or around the time of this event?
No.
When you went to 34 Fairview, you knew that that was the Albert family home, correct?
No.
When did you learn that it was the Albert? You now know that.
I know that now.
When did you find out?
I don't know. I don't recall. It was some point after. But I don't know when.
Could it have been the next day?
No.
You and firefighter Flamati and firefighter Nuttall were all discussing this case pretty intently after this event, correct?
No.
It's not that often in the little town of Canton that a police officer is found dead or dying on another police officer's lawn. Wouldn't you agree with that?
We responded to a medical call, so the conversation after the fact was at the hospital, debriefing the call, going over what happened, what we use for equipment, what we need, and just like that was the extent of the conversation.
Would you agree that this case, given its notoriety, is discussed at the fire station almost daily?
I don't know when I'm not there, but it does get brought up.
And obviously the fact that the house belongs to, or belonged at the time, to the Albert family is part of that discussion.
I don't know. Like I said, it gets brought up, but I just avoid it. I don't engage in the conversations.
It was certainly enough of a subject matter that you learned, according to you, after the 29th, that house belonged to Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, parents of your friend Caitlin Albert, right?
Well, at that point, it was on the news consistently, so I don't know where that like information was introduced, but
But it was pretty early on after the 29th.
I don't recall when it was known that that was the case.
I mean, you didn't learn that that was the Albert family home last week.
No,
You've known it for going on 2.5 years.
I don't know exactly when I learned that that was the house.
I realize you don't know exactly, Mr. McLaughlin. I'm not asking you the day you learned. I'm asking you, you've known this basically through the lifespan of this case.
At some point after I learned it.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out about how long after, a week after, a month after.
I'm not sure.
But it was more toward January 29th than it was
She
yesterday.
just does not want to give an answer. She was coached. She was coached. Don't say anything. Just say you don't recall. Say nothing. Say you don't remember. Yeah. She was coached for sure.
Yesterday, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, just a moment.
Yes.
Excuse me. Oh, look at that face. The way she's looking at her like, you freaking liar. You know you're lying. I'd be staring her down too.
One other, just a couple of brief questions. Do you know any of Caitlin's siblings?
No,
You don't know Brian Albert Jr.?
no,
Do you know any of her extended family that might be a little closer in age to you, like Colin Albert?
no,
You ever met any of them?
not that I recall.
Not that you recall, or no?
I don't remember meeting any of them.
Your Honor, that's all I have right now.
All right, Mr. Lally, any questions?
Just a few, Your Honor. So, Mr. McLaughlin, you're not friends with Caitlin Albert, correct?
I'm sorry.
You're not friends with Caitlin Albert, is that correct?
I would say she's an acquaintance, not a close friend.
Now, you were shown some photographs of you in
That's Karen's.
fairly large.
This is Karen's mom, and right next to her is Karen's dad. Watch their faces if you get a chance while Lolly's up there talking, because they're just baffled by this girl's answers. And remember, this is not in front of the jury, and they didn't get to see this. So what you saw was not such a hostile witness, but when we actually saw going into the jury, going into when they were questioned by the jury, we knew already that she has been lying and she was being this, hostile witness. Way worse when the jury's not there. And that drives me nuts. It's like the jury leaves and you become this hostile witness and you're like less professional and you can't even answer a question straight. Oh, this irks me.
With Caitlin Albert, correct?
Yes,
You don't know when those were, correct?
What's your face?
I don't know exactly.
You don't know where you were when those were taken, correct?
No, not exactly. They seem old.
And just back up, you knew her in high school, but you weren't friends in high school, correct?
I would categorize our relationship as always being just acquaintances. I knew her. We had some mutual friends, but we were never close friends. We don't have a one-on-one relationship.
And as far as high school versus post-high school, would you see her more so during high school, the high school years, or after you graduated?
Well, probably more in high school just because you're there every day. But then afterwards, yeah, only here and there.
So did you see her every day in high school? That would have been a good follow-up question for Andrew Jackson. Andrew, I keep calling him Andrew Jackson. Alan is his name. I'm just going to call him Mr. Jackson.
Like I said, like mutual friends. So maybe events for mutual friends, I might run into her.
And to be clear, and I think you made reference to it, but that last photograph that's marked as K, that seems to be a cropped or sort of zoomed in of a larger photo, is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, as far as each of those photos you were shown, you're present in a photo with Caitlin Albert in a much larger group, correct?
Yes.
Have you ever hung out or socialized with Caitlin Albert outside of the setting of a large group?
No.
You've never been to her house before that date of January 29th that you know of, correct?
Correct.
She's never been to your house that you know of, correct?
Correct.
Now, as far as that first one, as far as social media is concerned, as far as the friends list, and without sort of doing it, I'm sort of putting that in air quotes. How many friends would you say you have on social media in total?
I don't know. Maybe over 500. I don't know.
And of those 500 people, how many of those 500 people would you consider actual friends?
Much less than that. Less than 10.
All right, why don't we wrap this up, Mr. Lally?
Just when it comes to that day that you responded, you're working with the fire department, you responded to a call on January 29th to a home, as you say, to somewhere on the side of the road. Did you have any idea whose house that was adjacent to where the treatment was concerned with regard to your patient?
No.
I know.
Okay. All right. So there was an objection that this was in violation of Rule 14 to admit these exhibits, Mr. Lally. That's what you said, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Did he say that, or are you holding his hand and telling him what objections he should make? Because she's been doing that all trial. So I don't know if he actually said that. He did object, saying like this is the first time he's seen it, but he didn't quote whatever. I don't know. He didn't say all of that. She's helping him. She's holding his hand in the process of these proceedings, and it's sickening. Well, this is almost over, so let's give it a wrap up. She's gonna just not let the photos in anyway, so let's hear what she's got to
I
say.
agree. So the exhibits don't come in, but based on this voir dire and the answers, I'm going to give you some leeway on exactly what you did. Okay, the relationship, the socialization, and the extent of it, friends on social media, those areas. You didn't quite get everything that you mentioned at sidebar you thought you'd get, so that's not coming in.
So,
If you
stay within the parameters.
so, why don't you come over here then? Just because.
She doesn't want anything like on the record out loud where like anybody could hear it. She wants to be able to control everything in her courtroom. It's really annoying because she can't control everything, and she has to also follow the law and uphold the rights of the defendant. The most important person throughout this trial right now is the defendant. It's their rights that need to be protected. It's the most important person in this trial. Her rights need to be upheld because you've got an entire Commonwealth, whatever that is, a Commonwealth of power, corrupt mother lovers. They're not on the up and up, and you've got a lot of them apparently, and they come in judges' robes too, I think. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below what you think of this trial, how Judge Bev has been ruling. Are you agreeing with her for the most part, or are you seeing what we're all seeing, or what I'm seeing, which is the sighing and the being disrespectful and unprofessional towards Karen and her team? It's pretty sickening. We thought, well, I don't know why I'm saying we, but I thought that hopefully, the justice system would prevail. And I mean, not that it hasn't failed yet, but I feel like it's failed because we shouldn't even be here at this point. This case should have been dismissed. Long ago, this case should have been dismissed based on all of the things that the defense have argued coming up in their motions and whatnot. I mean, the corruption and the planting of the evidence and the close ties and relationships. And I mean, you can't write a better story. Like I said, it's a novel, but it's real life, and it's Karen's life, and it's awful. It's like somebody else is just writing the worst possible things that could happen to an individual and making it all happen for Karen, except it's real for her. She's got to live it. And she has... Is Crohn's an autoimmune disease? Does anybody know? She has Crohn's. She has... Crohn's, or no, colitis. She's got colitis, not Crohn's. So she's got colitis and, what is it? MS. Sorry, MS is definitely an autoimmune. There are days where I just can't even get up. Most days. I mean, I've got chronic pain, so just walking around my house hurts. But for someone like Karen too, I mean, I'm sure she struggles with the pain and all that, and now she's on top of that, she's got to deal with the loss of her boyfriend, someone she loved, the loss of the two children that she was helping to take care of, because some point in time they just stop talking. And I think, I think the O'Keefe family drew a line and said something. I don't know. That's my opinion. They drew a line and was like, we're not going to associate with Karen. At some point, they all just said, nope, no Karen. We're not associating with her. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the Commonwealth that has gotten to them saying like, well, we have video of her running him over. So how could you doubt it? Or, whatever they're saying, which could be lies, but they need more transparency in all cases. I mean, I'm glad that this one is even being recorded or, broadcast, because I'm surprised with the way that Judge Bev wants everything quiet. She doesn't want anything making the Commonwealth look bad. So anytime something comes up, she's like she interjects, which she's not supposed to do. Like, she cuts off the defense in multiple times. Like, there was a hearing where Alan Jackson was about to, like, he was on a roll and he was about to say something, or maybe it was Yannetti, I don't remember now, but she's like, okay, court reporter, do you want to take a break? You've been going for a while and it's hot in here, let's take a break. Like, what? Out of nowhere, just because the attorney was like getting fired up with what he was saying, and he was building up to something that we were all like listening and like waiting for, and she's like, let's take a break. God, she really should have recused herself, and they asked for her to recuse herself and she refused. Who in their right mind made up that rule that says if you want to get a judge recused from your case, you have to seek the recusal from the actual judge? Like, no, if I don't want this judge on my case, I should be able to say, I don't want this judge. This judge has a bias against me. And I should be able to change whoever, I think that's how it should be. Granted, everyone's going to say, a lot of people are going to say that, but if you really truly believe that you have a bias against, or this judge has a bias against you, that's not fair to make me only go to this judge, or to, have my proceedings under her, because she's been a wild one. I kind of want to do an episode just solely on Bev's size, because there's so many of them. It would take up a whole hour. Anyways, Bev, she's annoyed me a lot this week with her rulings and the way that she's just aiding and abetting Adam Lawley with his corrupt prosecution, which, by the way, Judge Bev, the feds are watching, so go ahead, keep playing this game and keep digging yourself a hole, because the feds are watching. Maybe they're coming after you too. So, on that note, I hope they're not coming after you guys, my lovely audience, just Bev, and others in that case. I would love to see some of the Alberts and Jen McCabe go down. And I don't wish that on. Like, I don't wish bad things on people, but the way that what they have done to poor Karen Reed, they really deserve prison. And I'll leave it at that. All right, so you guys take care. Have a good one. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and don't forget to hit the like button on the way out, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye now. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.